let me get to barrister, our good friend here, Dr. Daniel Bwala. Now, Daniel, you have listened to Professor Femi Olufemilade here. I don't know what you're thinking at this moment, but from legal point of view, there are two things he pointed out here. He said, one, as alluded by the senior advocate of Nigeria, SAN, Femi Falana, that there was no arrest warrant and there was no search warrant. Are you aware if such warrant or arrest warrant was issued? And from your legal point of view, do you consider it right to invade, civilian space at the wee hour of the night? Couldn't they have done that maybe in the morning, or at least invite him, as the other senior learned colleagues have argued? What's your take?
Thank you for having me. Well, from the perspective of law, a search warrant can be issued and to be executed at any time of the day and even on Sunday or public holiday. And when issued, it can be executed at any time. So you can execute a search warrant in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, at night, and anytime, including Sunday and public opinion. That is Section 148 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. And the person who issues the warrant is the judge or magistrate. Now, issues that have cropped up as arising from the attempt to arrest Igboho were, one, that the governor should have been notified. There is nowhere in the law where it is stated that law enforcement, when they're executing an arrest or search warrant, they need to notify or take the permission of a governor. Probably the rationale behind that is that law enforcement can even investigate a governor. And so when a governor is going to be contacted, then you're politicizing it, and there's every likelihood that the operation can be botched. That's number one. Number two, as to whether the law enforcement obtain a search warrant or arrest warrant, it is always difficult to know until after the arrest is effected. So the person who is arrested, when you come to arrest him, the law says he has every right to demand that you show him the arrest warrant or search warrant. But if you look at, Section 148 sub 2, it says when you go to execute the search warrant and the building that you intend to execute the search becomes impracticable, that it is closed, there is no access to it, you are to act within the prescription in Section 9, 10, 12, and 13 of the same Administration of Criminal Justice Act. In other words, you come to the house to execute, but you cannot access the building, then whatever you want to do must be guided by Sections 9, 10, and 12, and 13 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. And these sections that I've cited state in clear terms that you can use the reasonable force to enter into the place. So the law enforcement can come to execute, arrest, or search warrant upon an order at any time. And when they come to do that, if there is a resistance, the law says they can exercise reasonable force in executing that. Now, this is the position of the law. And I choose to stay around that ambit without having to look at the politics around it or the sentiment around it, because once you bring that into fore, then the question is whether they can even go there or not, which is not going to be premised on law, but on sentiment. Now, one of the grounds that a law enforcement agent or law enforcement agencies can exercise the power to search or to arrest you is when there's a test of reasonability. That is when there is a reasonable ground to believe that you have committed an offense, you are about to commit an offense, or you are in possession of a firearm. These are conditions on which they can come to execute the search warrant for the purposes of discovering what is going to form part of their investigation, or for the purposes of arresting you to stop you from committing the act. These are the grounds and conditions on which the search warrant to arrest can be executed. So the position by my senior brother Igboho, Femi Falana, with the greatest respect, is not tenable and it's not guided by law. The Administration of Criminal Justice Act came into force in 2015, and administration has nationwide applicability. Even when you go to criminal procedural law, for example, Section 111 of the Criminal Procedural Law, also supports Section 148 in terms of execution of a search warrant anytime or any day. What happened, I know based from my practice, what I've learned, and in fact, most of the times with the EFCC, is that because the search warrant can be executed and it can be issued at any time, it means that you can go to the judge's house and have him sign a search warrant. So, because the question people will often ask is that at the time you go to effect the search or execution, maybe it is not a business hour. So probably, let's say you go by 7 p.m. Then the question comes, at what time did you get that warrant to be able to go carry out that operation? But the law, like I've cited, Section 148 says it can be issued at any time, including on Sunday and public holiday. So what EFCC does is that at any time they want to do an operation, and I think it should be the same with DSS, is that they will go and get that order. And to get an order of court to effect a search or arrest is not difficult. So people don't know, because you go by way of ex parte. It's not like an application or notice where the other person will send representative to come and argue propriety or otherwise. No. And when you go, all that the judge or magistrate needs is to look at from the face value whether there is a reasonable ground from the fact you are stating that suggests that what you want to go and do in the eyes of the law can be seen as something worthwhile. Because when you have effected the search or arrest, it is going to form part of investigation. And by the time you are through with your investigation, you must definitely charge. So the law views that anytime you eventually come to the court, if there is no prima facie allegation established against the accused person, the law requires that the magistrate can decide to discharge the accused person. This is the premise. It can be executed against anybody in any part of Nigeria, except somebody who is covered by immunity as prescribed by our law.
Okay, so now, but in this case, you are confirming that there is no, up till now, we do not know if an arrest or search warrant was obtained.
Let me tell you from experience, I really find a situation or a case where either EFCC or DSS effect a search or arrest warrant without an order. Almost impossible. The reason I will tell you is because when any product of operation or investigation that is founded on illegality will affect the charge you consequently bring to court. So if you arrest somebody without an arrest warrant, or you search somebody's property without a search warrant, ab initio, it is faulted in the face of law. So whatever you find in that validated by court, why? Because the search or arrest is effected illegally. And so law enforcement, oftentimes, they may not be in a hurry to announce to say we have it. But if, for example, the person is arrested, the person will be able to testify at the time because the law requires that you show it to him. And in fact, there is a part of the law, I think is, there's a part of that is somewhere after Section 48 where it says sometimes you can even come to effect the search, and at the time you are effecting the search, the warrant may not be in your custody when he demands it. It says it will not stop you from executing the search, but however, you must at the end of the day show him that you have obtained a search warrant or arrest warrant to arrest him. In fact, Administration of Criminal Justice Act even provides that there are instances where you can even arrest without an arrest warrant if the person is about or in the process of committing crime. So okay. In essence, right.
Sorry, you just finish your line of thought, sorry.
Yeah, in essence, I'm trying to say that I want to believe there is a presumption of regularity, presumption that they must have obtained a warrant before they do that. Because from experience, if you fail to do that, every other case you build on it will come crashing because it is founded on illegality.
Okay, so now one is not a legal, a lawyer, neither is one a law enforcement officer. But again, where is the place of common sense? Where is the place of decency and civility here? Do you think that it is right? Because let's play this scenario. Suddenly you're in your house. They are coming to somebody. The security agent is coming to arrest you. You hear, open the door. What will be going on in your mind at that point in time? It could be armed robbers, it could be assassins, it could be anything. Open the door, and suddenly your door, maybe your wall, they just break your wall or do anything they can just to get in there. At that point in time, in the wee hour of the night, there is no way you would knowing our country, how we have 247 electricity, there is no way you will know who at that point is at the dark side. So do they have cameras to prove that at this point, because the story has it that there was gun battle going back and forth. Exactly. The question then is, if you knew, how would you ever fight with the police in your own house? If you know that this is government officials coming to effect an arrest, would you ever fight with them? Or if you don't know, so from civility here, do you think that it is the right thing to do to get into an individual's house at that point?
Right. So there is this thing we battle with as legal practitioners. In fact, when you are even undergoing your legal training, they talk about morality and the law. That morality helps to define law and assist law, but oftentimes you come to a point where morality and law will have separate paths. So, for example, in our society here, gay rights and homosexuality is not the law, and is also morally forbidden. But there are societies where it is now a law. So these are instances where morality and law don't go. From the perspective of a common sense, like the way you laid it background, it doesn't make sense for somebody who doesn't know the people who are coming to knock at his door or coming to execute an arrest, when he doesn't even know them at a time of insecurity, to then assume that truly, this must be security agents. That every tendency, he might think they are armed robbers, or he might think they are bandit, or any form of criminal element. Maybe we may need to amend our law, but the law as it, they come to your house, they will make the announcement. So XYZ, we are so and so from so and so executing a search warrant, and we have the order. So if, for example, they're outside saying that you're inside, you can find a place where you can see them through the window, whatever, to insist or see the warrant first. They will definitely show you. Then you open the door. But the law is that if they announce and you fail to open the door, then they will now apply section 9, 10, 12, and 13, which is the use of force. Now, like you said, it doesn't make sense. But if it is the law enforcement will only follow the law. And sometimes the law is developed by the National Assembly when, for example, the application of that law creates a kind of problems. So like the case of Igboho now can begin to create a conversation that maybe in the light of modern technology, they will say that you must send an email to the person or a WhatsApp message. But the problem is that, one, I know for a fact that DSS announced that they have invited Igboho in the past, and he failed to honor the invitation, which occasioned the oppression. So he had one opportunity to appear in DSS, probably to be able to explain himself. And the appearance sometimes is with his lawyer. So that if he has objection, he can. Generally, you are invited by any law enforcement and you fail to appear within that period without stating a reasonable ground, they, by law, have the right to declare you wanted, because consequently, they declare Igboho wanted. So to answer the question directly, it may not make sense from the logical point of view, but that is what the law says, that their obligation is only to announce when they come, where XYZ from so and so with an order to arrest or with an order to search, open the door. When you feel like what they did to the judges some times back, when they came to the door, that was the announcement they made. And it painted the same picture you are now raising, which indeed is a concern that we all have to look at. It is difficult, since it is at night, for me to tell whether they are law enforcement or criminals. So the judges refused to open the door. That was when they broke the building. Sometimes the law, as unfortunate as it looks, if it is a law, it is complied with.
If we go, I'll stay with you, Professor Femi. I'll come back to you. If we go by the virtue of the visuals and photos that we saw, now, saw ceilings, the POPs, everything just damaged, and as you said in the administration of criminal justice section 148 subsection 2, as you said here.
Right.
Now,
right.
In terms of forceful entry, does forceful entry that you have now, you've gained entrance into the property, does forceful entry include the destruction of the property as well? Does that include that?
Yeah, that's why if you look at 9, 10, 12, and 13, time has not afforded us. You will see specifically where it talks about breaking the door, breaking the wall, breaking this. They're all procedure. But you see, like in this case, there is another issue that is merged with that. If you come to execute a search or arrest warrant and the person in question is resisting with lethal weapon, by the law is that you will exercise force that is proportionally reasonable. So if I come and you're trying to slap, they cannot use gun on you because that is not a proportion. That is not compliance with proportionality. But if you use gun, then they can use gun. Now, there was a gun duel. Anytime there's a gun duel, when you're executing a search or arrest, what you are mentioning, worse than that can even happen because you are coming to a building you don't know. You don't know who is where, who is hiding where. So in the scenario where you have a gun duel, it is very possible that destruction, as you are stating, will occur. But assuming, let's paint it a different scenario. Assuming when they came, Igboho or Igboho's men politely opened the door, and these people decide to destroy anything, then they have exercise force that is not reasonable. So the test of reasonability will go against law enforcement because the response of the quote-unquote accused person or suspect has not given you the ground to exercise that force as directed by law.
But again, sorry, I want to stay on this.
No problem.
Exactly the way you've painted it now. Do you think there would have been any way that you get into conflict? Just imagine, for instance, DSS came, right. They know that they're going to arrest this guy, right? They've been there since 6 o'clock waiting in their car. All they want is that no car leaves that property without them getting in. Maybe if they have some exhibit, that car might get away with that exhibit. So you're waiting. The first car coming out of that property is around 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. At least at that time, there is clear visibility. There is no way an Igboho or anybody, his wife or anybody in that property, seeing clearly DSS on their vest, on their, everywhere, will start shooting. But again, isn't, or I don't want to blame the law here, but it's our application of the law by the security agents not enforcing. Is it not amplifying conflict? Because it's common sense that everything should be done to de-escalate. It appears. I don't know if you know this. There is this lawyer.
I get your point.
Okay, there is this lawyer. Let me finish with that. There is this lawyer called Barrister Igboho from Orifite in Anambra State. His house was invaded. The only reason why anyone would ever believe on earth that these were Nigerian security operatives were because he had security CCTV cameras. If not, it was already denied that they never visited this property. So you now ask yourself, are these security agents not acting in a criminal-like manner?
So the answer is simple and straightforward. You will know it. If you are somebody who is enthusiastic in security and strategic studies, you will study trends of specific law enforcement. Let me start by saying that most of the times, the reason why DSS in particular execute operation at night is to minimize casualty. Now, Igboho is a well-known personality, loved by his people. You remember there was a time EFCC went to Lagos, they went to Ekpe, they wanted to effect a search in the house of the former governor in the daytime. They were chased out by the community. These are the type of things that could have been avoided if they go at night. You will minimize casualty. Now, in the case of DSS, from my little understanding, why they always operate at night, of course, you should know that their operation is at night because of the logo. It's all operates at night. All sees at night. It doesn't see in the day. So they operate most of the time. You will rarely see operation of DSS during the day. I'm telling you this. So, and the reason they go at night is to minimize casualty. If they had gone to Igboho's house during the day, my brother, the casualty that will be seen, first of all, there is every likelihood that including those who go to perform the operation would have been killed, the law enforcement. And then secondly, in a bid to resist the resistance of the people, because he will definitely be surrounded by a mammoth crowd, you are likely going to fight a pandemonium that, if care is not taken, will lead to a national crisis. So most of the times they do that to minimize casualty. When they come to your house at night, apart from you and your family, and probably your security, there is no likelihood that you will have plenty of people surrounding you. So that is the reason why Department of State Services operate at night.
Yes, I mean, I like the part that you said that their logo is old. Actually, I don't think I've ever taken note of that, but
Yeah.
it explains the
But
reason
don't tell
why.
them I told you. Don't tell them I told you, sir.
They are watching us, so they actually know who told you. So, because apparently I might be a person of interest as well, but that's on the lighter note. But
No, that right.
so, coming back to that, looking at, listening to what you're saying, then the question is, if all these things are in this way, can't we, as a lawyer, I mean, you have seen where the gray areas are, or the things that are likely to give us trouble in the future. Is it not something that you lawyers will begin to look into and see how this could be remedied?
Honestly, if this incident had happened, before this constitution public hearing, if this incident, we're probably changing the power in the place, but let me try what I can try given the circumstance. If this incident had happened before the public hearing, probably this would have raised the quest of wanting to get the lawyers, the legislators to bring a bill for amendment of the relevant law, so that in view of technology, we would say that if Department of State Services, they are coming to execute, maybe they don't have to announce before they come, but after they have arrived, they must find a means of communicating through a relevant communication gadget that when you see, you will not say they are fraudster or Yahoo. You will definitely know it is law enforcement. Exactly. Whether you get a call from the headquarters or you get a call from a police commissioner in your state to say, I'm XYZ police commissioner in your state and law enforcement are there to execute, something like that, so that we will not be in doubt at this time of critical security situation to one day open our doors thinking they are law enforcement and they are armed robbers. We have had a case where EFCC people fake EFCC people wore EFCC red, whatever gown. They went to arrest somebody, fake EFCC. So these things are a possibility. We need to amend our laws.
Even beyond that, they went with a fake arrest warrant that was in Lagos. They carted away with property of an individual. So, with those things happening today, I think it's really called for that to be looked into. Now, okay, I wanted to come back to Professor here, but I can see that Professor is somewhat busy. But let me ask you this question point blank here. Do you consider that, engagement in Igboho's house to be a success?
No, it is not. It's a failure because under security and strategic studies, if the aim is to go and wrap up an asset, and in this case, the asset is Igboho, whatever you discover in the property, whatever you achieve, if the asset is not in the envelope, that's to say you have arrested the person, it's a failure in every respect. Because if you had arrested him, you would have stopped what you believe that could happen if he's not arrested. So I don't think it's a success. If he was arrested, it would have been a success. Having escaped, it's a failure.
So how come in order to get someone, you went into that property at night and at the same time unannounced, still failed on that mission? And that man, the man in question, was in that house at the point of barging into that house. What do you think might have happened there?
Well, what may have happened is the same thing that happened with Nnamdi Kanu when the military went to his hometown. Nnamdi Kanu was helped out of that place. And intelligence people will have more to say about how he was helped out and he escaped. We need to know that, like the professor had rightly said, Igboho is celebrated by his people. There is nobody who will see that kind of situation if they love him that will not facilitate his escape. So it's possible some of the people you're hearing that died, allegedly that they died, it's possible they gave their lives for him to escape. It is very natural that this thing could happen. But why I say DSS may not admit what I'm admitting, that is a failure, because they will tell you they found ammunition, they found document, they have gadget, they have found things that will lead and that will give him a clue on the comprehensive plan of Igboho. But why I said it is a failure is because from the security strategic point, if he is the asset, then he must be in the envelope. And if the asset is not in the envelope, it is not a success. So it is me who is making my opinion that it's not a success because the asset or target was not in the envelope. But they will not admit to that.
So the escape is in no way attributed to some supernatural powers.
No. If there was supernatural, you wouldn't have seen God. You see, it's just like my friends and brothers in the Southeast, when they arrested the ESM people, the whole supernatural. Even native doctor goes to church now and is looking for God's help in the situation that he's into. I don't think it has any supernatural power. He was assisted probably through the back door or any form, anyway, in any form or shape. You see, if there was no gun resistance, he would have been arrested. But because there was gun resistance and they lasted for a period, during that period, they could not have surrounded your house, like a football. They would not have surrounded the house like a football pitch. So he probably would have assisted. I do not believe he disappeared. But it's possible. Yeah, this is a real world. So it's possible he disappeared. I'm not ruling that out.
Okay. So, Professor Lima,